The movie begins by highlighting the civil war in Ukraine, which is still ongoing, with the United States leading the military campaign. The aim of the campaign is to eradicate the rebel group led by the elusive Viktor Koval, who is known as the Ghost due to his evasiveness. Despite facing a well-equipped enemy with advanced robotic soldiers, the rebels remained undeterred and determined to fight. Even when 2 American soldiers were caught in the crossfire and bullets rained down on them, they refused to back down. The story then takes us to the Drone Control Center in Nevada, where we meet Thomas Harp, a skilled drone pilot. As he monitors the battlefield from afar, Thomas detects a missile-launching truck that has arrived on the scene, posing a serious threat to the soldiers on the ground. Realizing the urgency of the situation, Thomas takes it upon himself to destroy the truck, knowing that failure to do so could result in the deaths of up to 36 soldiers trapped in the area. Despite his good intentions, Thomas's actions result in the deaths of 2 soldiers, and he finds himself facing the prospect of a court-martial. However, his past achievements save him from a severe punishment, and instead, he is reassigned to the battlefield to accompany a captain. Later that night, Thomas is flown to a U.S. military base in Ukraine and immediately sets out to locate Captain Leo. He is met by the colonel, who warns him that Leo is not your typical soldier. Passing through a warehouse where GAMS, the robotic soldiers, are maintained, Thomas is led down a hallway where he can hear music playing. As he approaches, he realizes that Leo is unlike any soldier he's ever met before. Leo seems to know everything about Thomas, including his past romantic relationship. Thomas is surprised by how much Leo knows about him and the situation at hand. Thomas initially assumed that Leo was gathering information from military officers or intelligence sources, but in reality, Leo is a highly skilled soldier who has successfully neutralized the sophisticated weapons of the RASMI rebel group, led by the infamous Viktor Koval. The RASMI group aims to merge Ukraine with Russia, and their movement has gained significant support from the Russian side, making the group even more formidable. The most concerning aspect of the group's plan is their intention to seize control of the perimeter system or automatic nuclear weapon reply system, which could pose a significant threat to the pro-Ukrainian independence group. This battle not only impacts Ukraine and Russia but also has global implications, particularly in some critical areas of the United States. Leo urgently requests that Thomas join him on a mission to deliver cholera vaccines to a clinic located 20 kilometers away from the base, where Ukrainian civilians who have been displaced are suffering from an outbreak. Time is of the essence, and they must deliver the vaccines as quickly as possible to prevent further spread of the disease. However, Thomas is in for a shock when he sees Leo change his uniform and reveals a body that is far from human. As it turns out, Leo is a 4th-generation bioengineered human designed to serve as an assistant. To work with Leo, Thomas must fully accept and embrace the extraordinary differences he sees, which could be a challenging task. In short, despite Thomas's position as a subordinate, he agrees to undertake the urgent mission with Leo, fully aware of the latter's commanding authority. As they depart from the headquarters, the duo is escorted by heavily armored vehicles. For Thomas, who is a first-time soldier in a conflict zone, the experience is nerve-wracking as the ground reality differs vastly from what he observed from the safety of a drone. While en route to their destination, an emergency report halts their progress as they encounter an overturned logistics vehicle surrounded by an armed militia group. Tensions rise, but Leo steps in as the mediator and successfully de-escalates the situation, allowing them to proceed with their critical mission. Suddenly, an ambush takes place, catching the U.S. troops off guard. The attack is orchestrated by a rebel group, with the sole intent of disrupting the American mission. In the ensuing chaos, Leo and Thomas realize that time is of the essence, and they must escape the battle to continue their urgent mission. After a long and perilous journey, they finally arrive at a complex where a clinic is being operated by pro-independence militia. The clinic is devoted to treating the cholera epidemic that has ravaged the displaced Ukrainian civilians. The clinic is the only hope for the sick and suffering, and Leo and Thomas must work quickly to deliver the vaccine before it's too late. As Leo hands over the vaccine to one of the clinic staff, a sudden gunshot echoes through the building. The source of the shot is traced back to a suspicious-looking man in black, prompting Leo to apprehend him for questioning. However, despite his efforts, the man remains tight-lipped, leading Leo to turn him over to the local militia for interrogation. As Thomas watches the events unfold, he begins to question Leo's methods, especially his failure to report the incident. Leo seems unconcerned about the incident and dismisses it as insignificant, much to Thomas's chagrin. Moreover, Leo's actions appear to be bringing them closer to Viktor, the leader of the rebel group, a prospect that Thomas finds disconcerting. Despite his growing unease, Thomas is torn between his sense of duty and his reservations about Leo's approach. The events of the day have left him feeling both apprehensive and frustrated. As they journey on, Leo confides in Thomas that he is not a human but an android soldier programmed to act independently in threatening situations. Much like the decisions Thomas had made earlier, it dawns on Thomas that this was the reason why Leo had chosen him as his assistant. Long story short, Leo and Thomas arrived at their destination to meet Sofia, who had provided valuable information on the RASMI rebel group, and Victor. Sofia informed them that the group was close to gaining control of the silo, a nuclear missile launch base, by acquiring a secret access code from a bank vault. However, the vault was impossible to break into except with a special weapon that was only available through the illegal arms supplier, Oshlag. In summary, Leo and Thomas quickly headed to Oshlag's residence to obtain the special weapon they needed, but were confronted by his men. However, Leo's superior strength allowed them to overpower the guards and confront Oshlag, who revealed that he had already sold the weapon to the RASMI group. Without Sofia's guidance, Leo and Thomas made their way to the bank where the access code was kept. Thomas used his drone piloting skills to navigate them to the location, and upon arrival, he removed the chip from Leo's body to avoid detection by Russian technology. Inside the bank, a RASMI member managed to subdue Leo, and in the chaos, Thomas almost mistakenly shot innocent bank employees due to his inexperience. In brief, Leo and Thomas arrived at the bank, but their presence was discovered by the RASMI group, and a gunfight broke out. Leo's advanced combat abilities allowed him to easily defeat a unit of enemy combat robots. Meanwhile, Thomas requested help from the colonel while trying to protect the bank employees. Leo fought his way through the remaining enemy robots to reach the safe. As the situation at the bank unfolded, Thomas was able to rally a group of bank employees, and soon after, reinforcements arrived. However, he couldn't help but feel a sense of disappointment towards the headquarters, who had only sent combat robot troops. As if things couldn't get any worse, the RASMI rebel group emerged and took the remaining bank employees hostage. Then, out of nowhere, 4 Russian robot fighters appeared and began firing their weapons. Leo continued his mission, taking out one combat android unit before stumbling upon a RASMI group who had acquired the access code box. Knowing the box was crucial, Leo swiftly attacked the group and chased after the person who tried to make off with it to the roof of the building. Outside, Thomas found himself facing off with the increasingly agitated RASMI commander. Despite his efforts to defuse the situation, a US battle android suddenly opened fire and killed the commander, sparking a battle between the two countries' combat robots. During the chaos, headquarters issued a sudden and shocking order for Thomas to evacuate the area immediately, as they had decided to bury Victor with the ruins of the building. This meant that the US military was willing to sacrifice Leo and any remaining civilians in order to defeat the enemy. A massive drone attack had been launched, successfully destroying the entire building. During the chaos and destruction, Thomas managed to escape to a nearby building, his heart pounding with fear and adrenaline. As he surveyed the scene and took in the devastation around him, he realized that he had finally experienced the true horror of warfare. Scene changes to Thomas seated in a car alongside Leo, who miraculously survived the explosion. But when the two of them were called to report in, it became clear that Leo had other plans in mind. Thomas began to suspect that Leo was seeking revenge for past misdeeds, and he was filled with regret for having trusted him so completely, even going so far as to remove the radar chip from his own body to avoid detection by the US military. Finally, Thomas made the difficult decision to break away from Leo, but not before being unceremoniously kicked out of the car. Still reeling from the injuries sustained in the previous battle, Thomas was eventually found by a group of militia members who took him to meet Sofia. As Thomas spoke with Sofia, he learned a shocking truth: Victor was not in the bank when it exploded. Sofia went on to explain that Leo had defected from the US because he could not stand to be a part of such an immoral agenda. Behind the guise of promoting peace, the US had actually been seeking to destabilize Russia by escalating conflicts across the country. Meanwhile, Leo had finally tracked down Victor and demanded that he reveal the location of the perimeter. However, Victor refused to cooperate unless Leo handed over the access code that he had acquired. Leo saw Victor's demand as a serious threat to his mission, and a fierce battle ensued, resulting in Victor's death. On the other hand, Sofia allowed Thomas to return to headquarters and share his experiences with the colonel. He expressed concern about Leo, who he believed was en route to the silo to activate his nuclear perimeter. With the help of drone pilot Bell, they were able to track down Leo's vehicle. The colonel immediately ordered Thomas to follow him to a location they had identified near the Ukrainian border. As they approached, they saw 3 inactive nuclear reactors and suspected that this was the perimeter's location. Thomas cautiously moved forward and discovered several guards lying lifeless. Leo had started up his generator and was getting ready to launch a nuclear missile using an activator code. Meanwhile, Thomas was on a mission to stop him, but it turned out that Leo was already prepared for his arrival. When Thomas tried to weaken Leo with 3 pistol shots, he discovered that Leo had been designed to be incredibly strong and could easily fight back. Leo made several attacks that left Thomas unconscious. When Thomas woke up, he realized that Leo was about to launch drone missiles, but he remained determined to stop Leo, even with just 5 minutes left. Thomas began firing at Leo, hoping to weaken him enough to stop the missile launch. Finally, after a fierce battle, Thomas succeeded in rendering Leo helpless and thwarting his dangerous mission. In a shocking revelation, Leo's true purpose was finally uncovered. He was created to destroy his own creator, the United States. Leo argued that creating androids like himself would only lead to war and destruction on Earth, and that it needed to be stopped immediately. With just 30 seconds left on the perimeter clock, Thomas quickly ran out of the silo while Bell fired a missile shot to deactivate the perimeter. After everything Thomas had done, the captain decided to return him to his previous job, and Thomas was finally able to look forward to his upcoming wedding next month. The moral that can be learned from this movie is, sometimes things that appear evil or bad may actually be the last resort or the final option to save more people. It's a reminder that we should not always jump to conclusions and should take the time to fully understand the situation before making a judgment.